Good morning, everybody. We've got 15 or so of you that have joined us this morning. I'm Mr. Priest, your new head teacher, so welcome Parton Manor new parents. And we have Mrs. Smith, who's joined us today. Just to kind of remind you, if you've logged in and signed into your YouTube account, you'll notice on the right-hand side of your screen, you should have access to the live chat panel. So if there's anything you'd like to ask me or Mrs. Smith or anything about the school themselves, then please do, and we'll try and get back to you as soon as we can. We've also got Mrs. Cross, who's our inclusion leader. You can't quite see her yet. She's just behind the screen there. And she might just say hello a bit later on. But all three of us are pretty much going to be your main point of contact over the coming weeks, certainly for the children starting in September. We also have Mrs. Blackman, who is your phase leader, so who oversees preschool, reception and year one. She'll join in on the chat. She's down at the infants at the moment, and she'll just say hello probably. So good morning to Mrs. Blackman as well. So yes, very interesting times. We appreciate this is a very difficult and challenging time. It's a bit like buying a new house, really. Don't quite know what's going to be expected when you get in there. But I'd like to think we've communicated to you as much as we possibly can during this pandemic. And that you've all received your admission packs, I believe, this week. Mrs. Smith, Mrs. Felton, Mrs. Walsh from the infants have also been delivering those. And in there was some kind of essential information regarding getting ready for school and some data sheets that you need to submit. So if you haven't done that yet, please do so as quickly as you can. And we can upload those records to our management systems in school, especially the kind of contact details, which is the main thing. Yes, as I was saying, it's a very, very strange time, and we're aware that you've been incredibly patient, and we'd like to have met under different circumstances, but we've done the best we can. We feel that you've got what you need. We've got a couple of questions I'm going to go over. Some people have sent in prior to this, so that's great. So thank you for those. And we'll give you a bit more of an outline about what will be happening in September, what we're hoping to do based around transition for the children. Obviously, their groups are already stabilized and secure, and you know which classes they're going to be in, and hopefully you've watched the video that reception folk have uploaded, but we'll just give you a bit more of an idea on what the landscape will look like and what we're hoping to do in that first half term, and trying to get you into school if we're allowed to, so you can see the teachers and their classes. So please use the live chat if you would like to ask anything. And the things I've been asked about already, a very, very important one, obviously children starting, a bit concerned about the environment and a bit anxious, is about toilet. Now, children, when they come in, they'll be taught everything about good manners, about etiquette, about how they interact with one another, how they encourage one another to put up their hands, to ask for things, whether it's to do with resources and indeed going to the toilet. So we spend a lot of time on that. So children being ready for school and being able to use the toilet, amongst some other things we're going to, is essential. And if there are issues with toileting, then please come and speak to myself, Mrs. Smith, or your class teachers. Mrs. Cross will be available as our inclusion lead, just so we can obviously support that child, particularly in this environment. And the children do require some support toileting, then we need to have those discussions with you in terms of how we make sure everyone's safe within that. So children, yes, hands up for toilets, and we'd like to think when they start going and doing their own thing and becoming a bit more independent, we'd want them to go and use the toilet by themselves, and we'll be encouraging that. So hopefully that answers that question. Indeed, Mrs. Blackman just put a few things down here that we are very good about spotting when children need to go to the loo. We are experts at that. Generally, smells help, and hopefully we can catch it. No, or hopefully not puddles, Mrs. Cross. But essentially, we will be encouraging that, and it will take a few weeks for children to become confident to ask and to do that, and we understand that. But obviously, we're experts in kind of knowing where children, if they're feeling uncomfortable, and we can certainly ask them, do you need to go? So that's very important. So that's toilets, and we've got a kind of plethora of questions here. So we've got things to do with PE, breakfast school club. So as you're aware, the prospectus says that we run a before and after school club. That will be available from the 7th of September, the first full Monday back. But I believe Miss sending out login details for all of you. So you can start booking from about the 3rd of August if you need to be really, really planned. So all that information will be available for you. And as I said, those account details for you to access PMUS, the Before and After School Club, will be available for you to start booking from the beginning of August, especially if you want to start getting planned ready for September. What else? Anything else about PMUS? No, that's about right, isn't it? So yes, that's okay. PE, do children have to wear DAPs, or can we provide them with plain black trainers? That's absolutely fine, no problem. DAPs or trainers are fine. If they're inside, we would normally do bare feet, but for the time being, it probably will be DAPs and trainers, just based around obviously the cleanliness and safety. We've been asked about phonics training. We take a lot of resources from a variety of places, particularly with Bug Club, Playground Phonics, Jolly Phonics, Letters and Sounds in reception. So we take information from a variety of places to support all the children, which we find really helps with those that either summer, spring or winter bursts. That's really, really important. But we do put on those training sessions for parents, and we will do that. And as I said, they're one of the things we'd like to do in September, based around what we're allowed to do and what we're permitted to do. As it stands, I'd like to make sure we can do those things as per normal, but we may be restricted with certain things. So yes, phonics training, certainly lots of information to be sent out by the teachers regarding that. So yes, that will definitely happen as long as we're allowed to. So we've already talked about breakfast and school club. That's good. The parent meetings on the 7th of September. It'd be difficult, I think, if we had all parents in. Again, it's obviously potentially a restriction due to social distancing. Even though social distancing within those children's bubbles in their classes aren't going to be in place, which is good. But in terms of parents coming to school, we're still awaiting on that guidance and what that will look like. I'd like to think once the children are back in September, we'll have a greater understanding what that will look like. We'll be able to get you in as soon as teachers to look at their classrooms, look at the outside area again. And obviously that'll be helpful for you. Talked about PE kit. Mr. Kingshot's one of our other teachers in the school, and he oversees the Class Dojo, which is a communication platform which you'll all be allocated a login for your child's class. And within that, you'll be able to access things that are going on within the classroom, messages from the teacher. You can message the teacher directly, and you can also message myself, Mrs. Smith, or Mrs. Cross, other than obviously email and picking up the phone. But on that particular platform, I will be putting letters and dates and all those kind of things, notifications that will be useful for you. So Mr. Kingshot will be sorting out your logins for you over the next couple of weeks. Once we've got all your details in, your up-to-date emails, so that we can send out an email for you, which will link you into an access portal for Dojo, which will give you access to the class. So that'd be really important. We've been using it for about 3 years now, and it's an impressive, and it's the most used communication channel that we have in school. Yeah, so preschool to use it. If you're a preschool parent listening in, yours will be archived if you're either in P2, and you'll be moved into obviously the red and green classes. So you'll have to have another login for that to access the new class. So if you find that if you're a preschool parent and you can't access Dojo, it's probably because you're being rolled over to the reception pages. Okay. Anything else? What have we got? That are all the questions that were sent to me. Mrs. Blackman said hello. Are there any questions from you? Trying to think what else I can say. Oh yeah, so yeah, we talked about Dojo in terms of me putting dates on, and one of the questions was about parents' evening. So the first parents' evening will probably be the week beginning the 19th of October, which is the week before half term. But I'll send all this out to you via Dojo when you're accessing it, and if not, I'll send it via email. And again, I'd just like to apologise for CCing all of your emails in on that email address. I haven't had any responses back, but I do apologise for that. Okay, we have a question here. Okay, so the year group bubbles, obviously they'll be working in reception bubbles in red and green class, but the year group as a whole, which is quite useful because reception do kind of keep themselves for a few weeks, just in terms of children learning the new structures and the new families, and the environment itself is very isolated for a few weeks, and it's going to have to be anyway. So the flow area is going to be absolutely fine because they're within their year group bubble, but equally they'll have their other classroom bubbles where they're doing direct teaching. So it'll be completely contained down in reception, which those of you who've already visited can see that it is quite separate and it is flowing, which does support EYFS curriculum. And as the government has stated, from September, children in those bubbles, in those year groups, won't need to socially distance. No, so that's something, actually, that's a really good question. That's something we've been discussing this morning. We've got to try and use all entrances to, obviously, as children come up Craven Drive, and if they're arriving from the library or from Golden Vale, when they come into the school, they're going to have to use certain entrances and exits like we are now. We can't have them all going in at once. If they've got a child in reception in year 2, one will go to the year 2 black gates and reception will go into their reception classes, which is what we would normally do. But they don't normally come out together. And so it's a case of what we do is we try and collect the children first from reception, and then obviously children won't be let go anyway until the parents are seen. But we don't normally let children go to other classes and walk out together. But they won't be let go until they've seen you. Yep, school meals will be back available in September. Catering, we use ABM, which is a new catering company we use. We're very happy with the meals. We have a great responsibility with them. They have a great providing better meals. And obviously with reception, and I've heard no notification other than the free school meals, the universal free school meals will be available for reception children for September. That hasn't stopped. I was expecting it to, with the amount of money that's been spent on all the various other things for catch up for children. But as far as we know, hot school meals will be available for reception in September. Obviously, if you want them to bring in packed lunches, that's fine. But if you'll notice through the transition groups, I don't think it's until the second week or halfway through the second week where they all start staying for lunches anyway. So yes, meals will be available. Okay, hopefully that's answered those. Anything else? Your class teachers will be your first point of contact. And as I said, if you've got any concerns, and this is the most important thing, any concerns in the first couple of weeks, which you may have, and to be fair, you probably will find it more difficult than the children, letting them go on their first day. But any concerns, you can contact any of the teachers. You can pick up the phone and I can speak to you, or Mrs. Smith, or Mrs. Cross, or Mrs. Blackman. So please don't let something worry you, or any concerns that you have. You do need to pick up the phone. I'm just very aware that we haven't had that kind of that visual contact with one another, only through virtual means. And I just want to reassure you that please don't let something settle. You need to make sure you ask us something if you're worried about absolutely anything. Mrs. Cross, is there anything you'd like to add at all?
Only if anybody wants to contact me before the summer,
yeah,
to leave a message and either one of the school officers, and I will pick that up and email them.
Fantastic. So Mrs. Cross has just said, if you didn't hear it then, Mrs. Cross is the inclusion leader for the Federation. So with new children coming in, and we have some of your details at the moment, obviously, those are certainly those families that and children that require additional support. But if there's anything that you need us to know about that isn't necessarily on the data collection or something you haven't mentioned before, Mrs. Cross is available on email. What I'll do is I'll add Mrs. Cross's email to this particular forum at the end, So you can access that email address. Anything that you'd like Mrs. Cross to know about, and she can meet with you when you arrive in September, that's the best thing to do. And I know Mrs. Cross is very busy in those first 8 weeks meeting the new parents, which she loves to do, and to get to know your children really, really well. School milk, that's a left field question. Thank you, Dorothy Roberts. How does that work? I think if they are 5 onwards, isn't it? So once they've turned 5, they get school milk. I'll have to check that for you. It's one of those things I remember from many years ago.
Prior to 5, it's free.
I think prior to 5, it's free. That's right. And then you start paying a little bit, unless, of course, you're free school meals. And that's different to universal free school meals. I'd just like to clarify that. If you are in receipt of any kind of external support from the government in terms of benefits and things like that, you are eligible to qualify for free school meals, which is different to universal free school meals. So there's other things that you may qualify for if you do qualify for free school meals. I don't think I explained that very well, but you get your free meal anyway, but there may be other things that we can support you with as a school going forward in the career and the journey of the child if you apply for free school meals, which are coming more into the fore when you go to the junior school. Okay. Yeah, so milk before 5 is free, but I'll double check that with Mrs. Felton. But I think that's the case. Milk is free before 5, and after 5, I think you have to start paying for it. Unless, of course, your free school meals. Okay. Mrs. Blackman, is there anything else I've missed at all? If you want to write something on there, I'll give you a few seconds to type something in. Mrs. Smith, is there anything else you can think of? No? So the key thing for me is to get this dojo, your dojo classes set up as soon as possible, because any updates and notifications across the summer I need you to know about, particularly if it's a government announcement or something's happened in the school. So that's something over the next couple of weeks we'll set up, and you'll no doubt see something come onto your email address to click on. It'll have a password for you, which is completely protected for you. Your data of your children are completely protected, but it does mean you can access school updates. Mrs. Blackman thinks I've covered everything. That's lovely. Other than the fact that we're really looking forward to seeing you all, I know our open days last year were very, very busy. That seems only yesterday, but it was actually November, wasn't it? And we're really looking forward to seeing you all, particularly the children as well. And I know on that first day back on the 7th, is it? The 7th we start with reception?
The children are on the 8th.
The children are on the 8th, yeah. We really are looking forward to all the groups of children. And from what I've seen, we've got some siblings coming through, which is nice. But we've got obviously new people come from different settings, and we are ready. We're ready for you all. And I know the teachers are very keen to get started again, because we've had time off. It's not really been time off, but it's nice that we have spent some time really thinking about September for you and your little ones. Yeah, I think our experiences of children coming into school, those are a little bit unsettled. Obviously, when the difficulty will be is leaving you. And my only advice would be it sounds a bit brutal, but not to hang around, is to kind of just let them go, because you're going to have to at some point, because that will ultimately make it more challenging for us and the child. And I mean that with all sincerity. And those that are left and that are crying is a possibility. And we understand that's tough. I know, I've done it. And I was quite fortunate. My son walked in, but there are other children that do find that difficult, particularly that they've been at school and they've not necessarily been at preschool settings as well. And we understand that completely. And we're not going to throw them in the corner. We're going to look after them, and we'll talk about them, and talk about what they're going to do. And we'll be saying, well, mum or dad will be back in a few hours' time, because that's why we do the transition the way we do it. So there's a few hours in school, and then I get to see you again in a few hours. As it stands, parents won't be allowed into the school with a child at the moment, unless we're told otherwise. And it will be very much a playground thing and letting your child go. And we do encourage you let them go, and then probably running away as quickly as possible before you start crying and weeping. And I would suggest maybe organising a coffee break with some parents or some friends afterwards to go and cry together, maybe for a little bit, or however you want to do it. I would add that some parents are quite happy to get rid of the children as well. And that's also great because the children just go. And I think if parents are confident about doing that, then that really does pass on to the children. And it'll be fine. And we'll look after your children. You don't have to worry. It's just one of those hurdles we all have to overcome. And it will be absolutely fine. Okay. Okay, then. Right, it's about 20 minutes. There's 21 of you have popped along today. I do appreciate that. And I know this will be played back. So if there's anything you've missed or if you've joined the party a bit late, by all means, it's available, the video. There's no time limit on them. So please go back to them. If you haven't watched the other video yet, that Mrs. Blackman and her team put together, please do so. I think it's really lovely. It was nice for me to watch that. In fact, I was quite emotional watching it because obviously we haven't had any of these little ones in yet. So please watch that if you can. And we'll look forward to seeing you all in September. And watch out for the Class Dojo email. We'll get that out to you as soon as possible, where we can start uploading dates and things for the autumn term. All right. Give you a few more seconds if there's anything else coming in. I don't think there is. Okay. Right, lovely to meet you all. I've not met you. Lovely to speak to you this morning. And take care, and please watch out for any email updates. Bye-bye now.